Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call. Mayor Pro Tem Scott Rogers is out this evening. Councilmember Stacy McKinney. Councilmember Caleb Allen.
Here.
Councilmember George Martinez.
Here.
And Councilmember Craig Baker.
Here.
We'll move on to item number 3. Citizens wishing to address the City Council. 3 minutes per speaker is allowed on any item related to the city, including items listed on the agenda. 5 minutes will be allowed during a public hearing. Citizens may speak at the beginning of a meeting or at the time the item comes before council in accordance with Texas Government Code Section 551.007. Comments will be allowed before considering each item on the agenda, provided that the city secretary has received a speaker request form before the start of the meeting, and no action may be taken by the city council during public comments. Did we have any turned in this evening? No? All right. Then we'll move on to item number 4, announcements by the mayor, city council members, or staff. At this time, reports about items of community interest on which no action will be taken may be given to the public per Chapter 551.0415 of the Government Code. Did anyone have any community items to announce this evening? Okay. I will remind everyone that on September 18th, we have the Chamber Clay Shoot. This is the fundraiser we're doing this year for our scholarships. All the money raised will go towards the scholarships that the Chamber gives out every year for our seniors. So that'll be September 18th at the Texas Gun Club out on 205 between Rockwall and Terrell. I actually just did the same thing Friday, and it was a very good time. This is going to be a very good event, and it's something different, and I think the community will enjoy it. So please be a part of that if you can. Also, a reminder this year, our Cotton Festival, Cotton Harvest Festival is November the 7th. That will be here downtown. I know there's several. I know we have a 5K that morning that Stacy is a part of. There'll be a car show, other events. I'm assuming we're doing our Battle of the Badges this year. Okay.
We do have on October the 6th.
Okay.
So if any other neighborhoods want to partake on a national night out that night, have them reach out to Chief Eli.
Okay. All right.
Get that set up.
What neighborhood? What, south or north?
It's North River Ridge. There's a national night out on
Oh,
October
yeah.
the 6th. So we're going to be out over there doing that.
Okay.
If any other neighborhoods want to participate, have officers go to those neighborhoods,
Okay.
then or come join us over at North River.
All right. Very good. That's October the 6th.
October the 6th.
Okay. Good deal. All right. Anybody else have any announcements? All right. We'll move on to item number 5, communications from mayor and council. Received council member requests for future agenda items, current and future items of community interest, and other items of interest regarding the city of Crandall. This is really where if you would like to see something added to the next agenda for the next meeting, now is the time to request that. Did anyone have anything this evening they would like to see added to the next agenda?
Nothing here, sir.
All right. Everybody good? All right, then we'll move on to item number 6, updates and discussion by the city manager and staff. And I will turn it over to our city manager.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I only have a few updates for the council tonight. The first update is a friendly reminder of the upcoming holiday for Labor Day. City Hall will be closed on Monday, September 7th, and that is normally when we would have our council meeting. And one of the agenda items for tonight is actually rescheduling that council meeting from the 7th to the 8th. And also as a friendly reminder, Friday the 4th, City Hall will close a little bit early. We close at 3 the day prior a holiday. And also to go along with the mayor's invitation for the clay shooting, The city will be sponsoring a team of 4 to participate. If any council members would like to participate in the shooting, I am not very good, so I would really need some help of a more experienced shooter that can help us at the very least not finish last place. So I would like to extend the invitation to all council members to be able to join us. So I will need 3 more participants if possible. And the other update that I had for the council tonight. So Kaufman County Leadership Class is looking for new participants for the upcoming fiscal year. This class is a great opportunity for individuals to learn how the county works and all the other nonprofit organizations that basically function in the county. I know sometimes we only think of those maybe city, county, school district, but there are other entities that help the county function. I went through this class this year, and it was a great experience. We learned about nonprofit organizations, like entities that help victims of domestic violence and those type of nonprofits that do great service. We had an education day, a economic development day, healthcare day. So once a month, one day out of the month, you basically go and spend the whole day learning about this organization out in the county, and it's very engaging. They had people come and speak to you. For example, there was probably my favorite was when we had the opportunity to visit the county jail. It was a good experience because it helped me not want to end up in that place. But it's remarkable how clean and well organized everything was in that facility. Like they had everything down to a clock as far as like the schedules and cleaning and everything else. It was a really good experience to see how they function. So I would like to extend the invitation to the council. If anybody would like to be part of this class for next year, the only commitment that you'll be making is once a month. This is the very minimum commitment. Once a month, you will go and attend the class, whatever the class takes place. And that is basically it. The class that you are a part of will more than likely be doing a fundraising activity that I would encourage for you to be engaged in. For example, for our class, we selected a nonprofit called Be Happy. And it was great. We were able to raise enough money to help them buy a minivan so they can go and pick up the participants. So I'm sure for this class, they'll be able to select another nonprofit to be able to help them. But if any council member would like to participate, just let me or Ms. Tambar know, and we'll be able to help you complete the application. The deadline to submit this is this Friday, so I will need to know ASAP if you would like to participate. And those are all of my updates. So now I'll turn it over to Ms. Karen, who has our quarterly financial update.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Sorry, I always have to ask directions on the pointer. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Okay, so tonight, I just click this to go to my presentation. I have a financial highlight presentation for you, which is through the end of June 2026. Whoops. And the first thing we're going to be talking about is looking at the general fund. And we're going to take a look at how we're doing with the appropriations that you gave us. And then we're going to look at some actual activity and compare year over year activity to see how we're doing. So right now, if we take a look at the general fund, we have the revenue budget versus actual activity. And we'll start on the left-hand side of the screen. So through the end of June, we generated 10.9 million. Revenue budget attained was 88.5%. which exceeds what was appropriated, but that isn't unusual. If you take a look here, you can see that 60% of is generated by property and sales taxes. And so basically, we don't expect to collect hardly anything for the remainder of the year for property taxes. One of the real winners here at 20%, as you can see, is excuse me, is the other receivables. And that is just a combination of various things that sort of really don't fall into any of the buckets. Property tax collections, again, increased 48.20% from the prior year. Sales tax collections are increasing pretty steadily at 11 or 12% year over year. Public safety interlocal agreements increased 3.8% from the prior year. And we did have a one-time anomaly from investment income. Remember last time I spoke to you, I talked about our CD maturing. And the beauty of that CD is that the interest kept on compounding every time that we earned interest along with the principal. So now that has matured and we're going to be probably investing it into one of the tax pools because it earns more interest. And then I gave you the grid just so that you could see all of the activity and the percent of budget utilized by each category. Some people like to look at a grid instead of a visual. Depends on how you like to see things. So let's take a look at the expenditure budget. So as you can see over here, total expenditures are tracking at 54% of appropriations. So they're kind of lower than anticipated. That is, kind of expected. We've talked about how development has slowed down. We've also discussed in the past how we appropriated $2 million for developer reimbursements. And of course, those did not come to fruition due to the economic slowdown. Building permitting expenses are below expectations at 31% of appropriations. And again, that's to be expected. And also, that also hits our TERS expenses. They're 2.29% below expectations. And again, everything is due to the slowdown in the current economic conditions. Again, on the bottom, if you go beneath the blue line, you can see the expenditure budget used through June for each of the various departments. And then again, you have the grid of information so you can see the actual amounts. Now, this is something that I haven't shared with you before, but I think it's important for us to do this at least on a quarterly basis, where we start looking at actual activity year over year to see what's occurring. And so basically, FY 26 sales taxes is at 1.6 million. FY 2026 property taxes are at 4.9 million. And as you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, you have a comparison from 2023 to 2024 all the way through 2026. And you can see that those are still rising year over year in the property taxes and in the total sales taxes. And if you look on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see what's happened with the permitting net revenue. So we had our big boom in 2024. And then, over the last couple of fiscal years, due to economic conditions, we've sort of gone downhill. Let's take a look at our proprietary funds. Again, we're going to follow the same pattern and take a look at budget versus actual activity first. So on the left-hand side of our screen, if we take a look at the revenues, you can see that revenues are 5.3 million and that they have attained 55% of their budget. Again, a little lighter than anticipated, but given that these are proprietary funds and it has been a very wet year, so we've had a lot of rain, so there hasn't been as much water usage. You can see in there that, again, I mentioned the one-time anomaly of the investment income due to the maturity of the CD. I did have a typo here on the second bullet point of that solid waste is actually at 80%. It's the water fund that's at 77%. So solid waste and sewer are pulling in about 80% of budgeted expectations, with the solid waste at 77%. Excuse me, water at 77%. And if we take a look at the expenditure side of things, you can see on the left-hand side, by category, by each fund, water, wastewater, and solid waste, and the total amount of budget versus the year-to-date activity. And at end of third quarter, I should have put instead of mid-year, expenditures are at 13.6% above budget. Anticipated being slightly over budget at year end. So what's driving the cost factors here is basically higher than expected maintenance costs. The maintenance cost every year is quite a bit for both our infrastructure on water and sewer. If we take a look below the blue line, you can see the percent of budget utilized through June by each one of the different funds and their departments. And then on the right-hand side, you have a grid of the activity. And now let's take a look at the comparison in between their actual activity since 2024 through 2026. So basically, if you take a look at each of the funds, on the top part of the graphs, you can see by fund, water revenue versus expenses year over year. And you can see that if you take a look at 2026 for both the water and the wastewater fund, we're sort of, going down a little bit. And again, I think that the two driving factors is, again, lighter sales of water and also increased infrastructure costs. Our maintenance costs, system maintenance costs keep on rising, and even though we're not making water sales due to heavy rain, we're still paying the same amounts for that capacity and for that wholesale water. So this just happens sometimes on this side in the proprietary funds. And then when you take a look at the solid waste revenue versus expenses, and that's the last graph on the left, every single year we have a negative net position. And so this is why, if you take a look at the bottom, then it basically shows you fund by fund and the downward trend. And this is why we requested in our budget a rate study, because we really need to do some long-term future planning here so that we can turn this around. Are there any questions?
So, great information.
Mm-hmm.
Why present this? And then what was the difference between this presentation and last month's presentation when you did the quarterly review?
The quarterly review last month, I do believe I presented just the investments.
Okay. I was just, because when he said quarterly review, that just kind of threw me for a minute. So, and this is just for those folks that may be watching on the YouTube channel. I'm sure we have thousands upon thousands of subscribers. This is for the fiscal year ending on September 30th, right?
Correct.
Okay. Because some folks would probably think that it's just a regular calendar year rather than a fiscal year.
Yes.
And then my last question is for you and the city manager. With all this information, which it looks great to me, but obviously I'm not the expert. How do you feel about it? Do you feel like we're in a good spot to finish out the year? Do you feel like we did a solid job last year building our budget? And if we didn't, are we in a spot where this budget's going to account for our 2027 budget's going to, meet the mark?
I feel that we are in a good spot. It's hard to budget. You never know what the weather's going to be. You don't, you can, if I had the magic crystal ball to rub and say, 6 months from now, what is the economy going to be like? You have to keep with your strategic vision, and we have to budget for it. If we don't have the resources and things don't occur, doesn't mean that we have to spend the money. So trying to fulfill what you ask your staff to do, we try to budget accordingly and make the proper recommendations to you. It can become difficult. There's a lot of moving pieces. And I know that might sound like a little bit of a lame answer, but it's kind of the best I can do. Do you have anything to add?
So I agree with Karen. Overall, the city is in a very strong financial position. The only thing that is a little bit concerning is if you look at the chart or the what we're showing here on the screen on the bottom left, those enterprise funds, it is still very early for it to make any significant impact. If you see the net position is negative, but it's only several $1,000s, right? I think we're still very early where we can correct the direction of where the enterprise funds are going. And this is why we are going to be doing the rate study this upcoming fiscal year so that we can basically bring those into a positive. Because those enterprise funds, if the council remembers one thing that I mentioned during our budget workshop, they have to be run like a business. If they're not making you a profit, then you're not running them correctly. So that is what the rate study, the utility rate study is going to be for, so that we can make those funds profitable.
Job well done to previous council for that budget.
I think this is probably a question for you. Just given that we're a take or pay city with our water, are we going to, I'm sure we're not going to bust if it's been a wet year. It doesn't feel like a wet year right now, but
Yeah.
I know earlier in the year it was. Are we going to leave money on the table in terms of what we've had to buy versus what's going to get used?
No, the city of Crandall always uses more than
Okay.
its minimum, and that is due to the growth. So we are well above our minimum consumption, so it's not going to be an issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then and you might have said, and I apologize if you have, are we getting water from Mesquite yet? Has that line opened up?
Not yet. We're working on the final items. The pump station is fully built and functional. We're just waiting on the city of Mesquite to make some final improvements to their infrastructure so that we can have enough water pressure for the water to come from Mesquite to that Crandall
That's
pump
right.
station. Yeah,
That's tied to the water tower they're building
correct.
out there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it will be any day now.
All right. Any other questions from on our finances? I appreciate the staff, Karen and David and your team. It's very helpful to have good information that we can try to make good decisions off of. So I appreciate you guys doing that. All right. We'll move on to item number 7, the consent agenda. We do have 4 items this evening under the consent agenda. Item A is to consider an act on approval of city council minutes from August the 3rd, 2026. Item B is to consider an act on approving the 5th amended and restated interlocal cooperation agreement for police officer services between the city of Crandall, Texas and Kaufman County Freshwater Supply District, numbers 4A and 4B. I believe that is Heartland. Is that Wildcat? Okay. I'm gonna get these messed up, I'm sure. Item C is to consider an act on approving the amended, restated interlocal cooperation agreement for peace officer services between the city of Crandall, Texas, and Kaufman County Municipal Utility District number 9 and Kaufman County Municipal Utility District number 12. Which one is that one? That's Heartland. All right. And then item D, this will have to be Eastland, I'm assuming. Consider an act on approving the amended and restated interlocal cooperation agreement between the city of Crandall, Texas, Kaufman County Municipal Utility District number 10, Kaufman County Municipal Utility District number 11, and Kaufman County Municipal Utility, I cannot say that, Municipal Utility District number 14 for peace officer services, which that'll be the Eastland community. All right, that's Heartland. Before that was Eastland. Quick question, not to get off track here. Have we been approached by Crane Crossing regarding police services? Not yet. Okay. I know that's kind of getting up and going. I didn't know if they'd approached us. All right. So there's four items. These should have been in your packet. Obviously, these are part of our budget, these police contracts. If you have a question regarding the minutes or any of the contracts, now would be the time to ask about those. Chief, do you have any input on these? I know it's pretty much the same as previous years. Sorry, I'm too casual about this sometimes. I apologize.
Sorry. The only thing that's really changed is Eastland's adding an officer to their contract this year and adding a vehicle.
Okay. Okay. All right. Any questions on this? If not, I would just need a motion.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
All right. I've got a motion from Councilman Baker and a second from Councilman Martinez. All those in favor? All right. Move on to item number 8, updates by Crandall ISD. I know that they're kind of getting back into the swing of things. Is there anyone here from the school this evening? Okay. I bet they'll have an update next time with kind of an update on how the school year started. So we'll move on to item number 9. It's a public hearing, request for annexation of approximately 35.05 acres of land situated in the S. Gilliland Survey, abstract number 167, Kaufman County, Texas, identified as Kaufman County Appraisal District property ID numbers 6205 and 6207, located at 13125 Lewis Street. Is it still Lewis? I don't know. Lewis Street in Crandall, Texas. Property owner is the city of Crandall. This is our parkland that we recently were able to purchase. I'm going to open that public hearing at 6:58. Was there anyone here that wanted to speak to that this evening? Okay, then I'm going to also close that public hearing at 6:58, and we'll move on to item number 10. Discussion and possible action on approving the rescheduling of the city council meetings on September the 7th, 2026 to September the 8th. That is in reference to the Labor Day holiday that David talked about earlier. And then January 18th, 2027 to January 19th, 2027. That I'm assuming is MLK. And then February 15th, 2027 to February 16th, 2027. I believe that's the President's Day holiday due to holiday closure. So that's just those are holidays that fall on a Monday that we would normally have our meetings, just wanting to move those to the following day. I would just need a motion for that if that's okay.
I make a motion to approve the changes.
Okay, I've got a motion from Craig
I second that motion.
and a second from George. All those in favor? All right. Then we'll move on to item number 11. Discussion and possible action on ordinance number 08172026, an ordinance of the city of Crandall, Texas, authorizing the issuance and awarding the sale of City of Crandall, Texas combination tax and revenue certificates of obligation, Series 2026, levying an annual ad valorem tax and pledging certain net revenues and payment thereof, authorizing the execution of paying agent registrar agreement, providing an effective date, approving the official statement, and authorizing and enacting other matters and provisions relating to the subject. And this is tied to the debt secured with our certificates of obligation that we discussed a while back. And we have Andre with Hilltop Securities this evening to walk us through this. Andre, before you start, I do want to say, I know we talked about this for many years. Jim Sabonis from Hilltop was a very important part of guiding us through our financial business in the city of Crandall. And we lost Jim recently unexpectedly. And I do just want to take a moment to say to you, Andre, how much we appreciated him and you. I know y'all work together, and I know we're in good hands with you here tonight, but Jim was a great help to Crandall over many years, and we are sorry that he's no longer here, and I just want to publicly state that. He was a great advocate and help to this community for many years. So I just want to say how much we appreciated him, and but certainly we appreciate you coming out tonight and walking us through this evening.
Good evening, Andre Ayala with Hilltop Securities. I appreciate those words for my former partner, Jim Sabonis. For almost 20 years, we worked together, and I've been working with Crandall since 2009, so I'm no stranger here.
Sure.
Thank you. Mayor and Council, this evening we're going to talk about the issuance of the city's combination tax and revenue certificates of obligation. You may recall that Jim was here in June to present a plan of finance for the issuance of the certificates of obligation to fund a variety of projects. This morning is when we priced the bonds, meaning that we got bids for the bonds. So we secured our interest rates. It was a competitive process. So obviously, my recommendation is that you take the low bid. We're going to go through that here in a second. And I passed out a handout that I put together right before coming to this meeting because the pricing happened in the morning, so it's hard for us to get it done real quick. But you have all the summaries in there. And what I want to start with is to say that this certificate of obligation is being issued to fund a variety of projects. So the proceeds of these certificates can be used for water, wastewater, lift station, force mains, streets and roadways, park improvements, drainage improvements, fire department improvements, and city hall building improvements. The total amount that we are going to get in the bank when this deal closes is $17,180,000. This being a combination tax and revenue certificate of obligation, council, is secured by the city's debt service tax rate and any other revenues that you may want to throw in there, such as utility system revenues that can be used to buy down the debt service, consequently, the debt service tax rate if you choose to do so in the future. This debt is structured in such a way that it mitigates the budgetary impact of the city. So we structure it in such a way that it doesn't have negative implications on your budget. I'm going to go through some of the highlights that Standard & Poor's prepared for us. It is a very nice report, and I want the public to know what happened here. And then this bond is callable, meaning that we can take it away from the investors in about 10 years' time. This is a very standard feature for municipal bonds. By 10 years' time, we can refinance this bond for interest rate savings if the market cooperates with us. You may recall that in the past, the ones that have been here in the past, sometimes we have gone out to the market to issue a new bond to pay off an old bond. This can be done in 2036 if the market cooperates by then. Okay. So in your handout, I asked our analysts to summarize the rating report from Standard & Poor's. So I want to congratulate the city and its staff for a high achievement here. So the city of Crandall was reaffirmed as a high investment grade credit rating by Standard & Poor's, which is one of the big three rating agencies. The city achieved its AA- rating, meaning it is a high investment grade. That was achieved before, but it was reaffirmed this time. And they had a really nice write-up here in the sense that they recognize the economy is growing. So Crandall is growing. It is not the small city that it used to be in the past. So we are growing and our debt is manageable. So that is important that they recognize that, yes, we're issuing bonds here and we have done in the past as well, but we do not have an elevated debt burden in this community. The other thing that they point out is that the operating performance of the city has been positive. So over the years, the city's financials are good. So the city has sometimes had surpluses, operating surpluses. Consequently, they recognize that the operating performance of the city is a positive thing. They give you points for that. They recognize management, which is super important. That is a subjective metric that they take into account when they give a rating. And they give you high points for management. They recognize the reports that you just heard from your finance director and the engagement between council and staff so that you're up to speed on what is happening here financially. And then also budgetary performance in the sense that you do meet your budget. When you approve it and whatever the end is at the fiscal year, the city generally meets its budget here. And then also they talk about the city's long-term financial plan. So as we grow, it's the growth here is very fast. So your staff has started to implement long-term financial planning, and these people love that. So they do recognize that as the city grows, we need to have a plan on how we're going to fund the various improvements that are going to be necessary for the community. Streets, roads, water, sewer, drainage, everything that the citizens will require as you grow in this community. So again, congratulations to staff and city council on this high achievement. In the next page, what I summarize here, council, is what the final par amount of the bond will be. So the final par amount of this certificate is going to be $17,155,000. Why is that less than what we're getting in the bank? Because these bonds are selling over 100 cents on the dollar. So we have a high investment grade security, so investors are willing to pay over 100 cents on the dollar for this security. So we're going to be issuing $17,155,000. We do have an allowance for financing costs and then the haircut that the bank that bought the bonds takes. But in the bank at closing, we get $17,180,000. This certificate of obligation is a 25-year obligation, and it has a fixed rate of 4.68%. So that does not change. Whatever the market does, that rate is fixed for the term of the security. Now, I want to talk a little bit about, if you look at page 5 of your handout, why we're able to make this happen. So the city has grown substantially over the last 10 years. So when we look at the records, for example, back in 2017, our tax base or taxable assessed valuation council was $159 million rounding up. This year, we closed at close to $684 million rounding up. So as you can see, the growth is what is allowing us to finance this program without putting an undue burden on existing citizens. So it does work with your budget because your tax base keeps growing very fast. Now, if this council decides to move forward, then we will have our attorneys take this to Austin so that the Attorney General can review the transcript of proceedings and make sure that this transaction is valid and give us an opinion on the validity of the transaction. And then we can close this transaction at the beginning of September. September 10th is what we have here. So that is what is going to happen if you decide to approve this transaction. And I want to read something to you for the record. So I'm going to read the bids that we got for the Bonds Council. So we got 5 bidders. And I was telling your city manager that I was really happy with the bidding because we saw a lot of out-of-state participants, which means that you have a lot of visibility now. So for the record, I'm going to read them out loud. The low bidder is Robert W. Baird out of Milwaukee at $468, which is the winner over here. The second best was Piper Sandler in Minnesota at $4.69. So very close. The third best was Mesero Financial in New York, $473. Fourth best was TD, which is Toronto Dominion Financial out of New York at $474. And last but not least, Bank of Texas, Bank of Oklahoma at $4.75. So as you can see, this is within the market. That's why we wanted to do it on a competitive basis so that you can see what the market is for a bond in Crandall. So again, 4.68% is the fixed rate for this obligation. In the back of your handout, Council, for the mathematically inclined, we're including the revenue models that we worked on very hard with your staff. This is the mathematical proof of how this works. I'm not going to go through it line by line because it's very dense information. It's a bunch of numbers here, but I wanted to include them here so that you can see that we spent a lot of time working with your city manager, economic development office, finance officers, to make sure that whatever model we put together for this obligation, because it is a big obligation for Crandall, is cash flow so that we can cash flow this obligation. So what we expect here, Council, is that we're only going to need about 11.5 cents to cash flow our existing debt and this new debt. And if you have any questions, Mayor, Council, happy to entertain those.
I guess I maybe have 1 or 2 questions.
Yes, sir.
So, and I think I've asked this before. If we in this list of things that we could do, can these projects be reimbursed through a TERS if the city does one of these projects within a TERS district that will service whatever development that is? Can the city, if the city puts in a road, for example, can that be reimbursed through a TERS if it's in a TERS zone?
So we can do an internal allocation. I think what is important to note about this list of projects is what is eligible to use the money for. So let's say that the city wants to use the money for streets, then the proceeds of this certificate can be used for that purpose. Now, if you want to repay the obligation with TERS revenue and it is within your TERS plan, then we can work with you on achieving that. But I think the importance here is to know that this money can be used for these purposes. Now, how do we pay it back? That's an internal discussion here that we can help you with as to how we manage that process. For now, what we're doing, Council, is that we're assuming in this scenario that you just adopt the property tax and pay for the whole thing. Now, if you decide to throw in, for example, you do a sewer project, let's say you use the money for a sewer project, and you decide to allocate a portion of the debt to your sewer fund, that just buys down the tax rate that is necessary to cash flow this transaction. At the same concept with the TERS.
Okay. And I guess my follow-up to that would be, and in my head, I'm thinking of this as maybe more of a traditional loan. If we were to be able to be reimbursed through the TERS, I know you've done a lot of work on the cash flow, and we're leaning on the cash flow to service this, not a TERS. If we were reimbursed through a TERS, could that be applied to principal as opposed to annual debt service?
Sure. I mean, if let's say we have a lump sum of cash, let's say we just have a lot of cash and we want to get rid of this obligation. I know I just mentioned that it is callable or we can take it away from the investors in 2036. But let's say that 2 years from now, you just have a lot of cash and you want to get rid of a portion of this certificate, we can finance an escrow account, meaning an investment account that we put money in. And then that investment account, let's say out of TERS funds can pay a portion of the certificate, and then it doesn't have to be cash flowed with existing revenue streams of the city at that point, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah,
So
it
yes, we
does.
can achieve that.
Okay. I know we talked about this with Jim back in June, so we've dug through this a little bit, and I appreciate you kind of verifying or confirming, clarifying that our cash flow does make this work without having to be an additional burden on our citizens. Anybody have any questions for Andre on this? I know it's a lot of numbers, but go ahead.
There are a lot of numbers. However, I want to take a moment and recognize that over the past 10 years, we've averaged 17.1% growth year over year. And that is phenomenal. I mean, having been in this city for 40 years now and seeing 30 of those years being stagnant, and then to finally be seeing the growth is outstanding. I know there's a lot of citizens out there. Some of them like it, and then there's some of them that struggle with it, but we are going in a good direction. The second question I have is actually for the city manager. David, do you feel good with all the numbers and where the interest rate came out? Is this something that you would recommend that the council proceeds on?
Yes, I would highly recommend the council to consider approval of this debt issuance. The the interest rate that came back, it is given today's numbers that if any private entity was to go out and try and issue the same debt, they will be getting double-digit interest rate. The city has a really good credit rating, and we were able to secure a really good interest rate for this debt.
Job well done, by the way, on securing that AA rating. Wow, that's impressive. I make a motion to approve.
Okay. I've got a motion from Craig.
Second.
And a second from Caleb. All those in favor? All right. Thank you, Andre. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Andre.
Thank you.
Good job. All right. Let's move on to item number 12, discuss and possible action on ordinance number 08172026A, approving a budget for the Crandall Economic Development Corporation for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2026 and ending September 30th, 2027. And we have our EDC director here with us this evening.
Good evening.
I'm here to take any questions you may have. During your budget workshop, you saw that we presented a balanced budget at $960,000, approximately $960,000 for FY27. It's aggressive. We intend to put a lot of effort into the continued growth of our community. And subject to your questions, we would certainly, the board on July 14th reviewed this, the EDC board reviewed this budget and offered a recommendation to the city council for its approval.
Ask City Manager David Sanchez, do you endorse moving forward on this budget?
Yes, sir. It's the same budget that we presented during the budget workshop, like Mr. Slide mentioned. But yes, I do recommend approval of this budget for the EDC.
If he didn't, we were going outside to have a discussion.
I just want to be sure. I make a motion to approve the budget for the EDC beginning October 1st, 2026.
Got a motion from Craig and a second from George. All those in favor? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item number 13, a public hearing to receive input regarding fiscal year 2026-2027 City of Crandall operating budget. This budget will raise more let me try that again. This budget will raise more total property taxes than last year's budget by $655,497 or 13.51%. And of that amount, $456,415 is tax revenue to be raised from new property added to the tax roll this year. I'm going to open the public hearing at 7:16. Did we have anyone that wanted to speak to this or speak on this? All right. Then I will also close the public hearing at 7:16. We'll move on to item number 14, discussion and possible action on ordinance number 08172026B, approving a budget for the city of Crandall for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2026 and ending September 30th, 2027. I know we've had several workshops and an opportunity to go over this, and so I appreciate the staff trying to make this as easy as possible. I know budgets never are, but anyways, now's the time to ask questions if you do. And David's got, I guess, a presentation for us to walk through, and then we'll go from there.
Yep. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I do have a very brief, high-level presentation. Very much like the EDC budget, our city budget is also balanced. And I have a very high-level presentation. So we covered just about everything that we needed to cover in the budget during the workshops that we presented. But I still wanted to put together a brief presentation to kind of refresh at a high level council members what the council is going to be approving tonight. So like the mayor mentioned, it's a legal note that we have to read. Mayor read it during the agenda item. So the fiscal year 2027 budget, overall with all of the funds, so you have your biggest players, you have the general fund, and then all of the enterprise funds. And then I just combine all of the special funds into one line so that I wouldn't have to list like 20 items. But overall, the revenues expected to come into the city are $20 million. Our expenditures are expected to be almost $18 million. So we have a surplus of about $250,000. So the budget is balanced to the positive for the city. Now, this is a breakdown of this table here in a pie chart, just so that you can kind of see what percentage of the pie each of the funds make up. So the largest is the general fund at 67%, and then you have all of your other funds. Second largest is water, and then sewer after that, solid waste, and then all of the other smaller special funds. But this is essentially the breakdown of what makes up that difference by expenditures. And with that being said, the recommendation from staff to the council is for council to adopt the budget. Like Ms. Karen mentioned during her presentation, a budget is it's a living, ever-changing document that probably within the first 4 to 6 months, something is going to come up that it was unexpected, and we'll just have to do an amendment. But this is our best educated guess on what we should expect for fiscal year 2027. I'll be happy to answer any questions, if there are any.
Anybody have any questions for the city manager? I believe you have a
Yes, I
handout.
have it. I make a motion to approve the budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2026, as attached to the ordinance, which will raise more total property taxes than last year's budget by $655,497, or 13.51%. And of that amount, $456,415 is tax revenue to be raised from new property added to the tax roll this year. And then I believe we need the vote recorded.
All right, so I've got a motion from Craig.
Second.
And a second from Caleb. We do have to take a record vote. I'll probably start to my right and we'll just work our way down, if that's okay. Councilmember Allen,
Yes.
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Councilmember McKinney,
Yes.
and Councilmember Martinez.
Yes.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to item number 15. I'm sorry.
The order. So number 15 needs to be moved to item 18.
Okay. All right. Then we'll move to item 16. We'll come back to item 15. So item number 16, a public hearing, a discussion and possible action on public comments by proponents or opponents of the proposed 2026 tax rate of 75 cents per $100 evaluation. This represents no change from last year, so there's no tax increase in terms of the rate. So I will open the public hearing at 7:21. Did we have anyone that wanted to speak to this? Okay, then I will also close the public hearing at 7:21, and we will move to item 17. Discussion and possible action on ordinance number 08172026D, approving the 2026 certified appraiser rolls, levying ad valorem taxes for 2026 at 75 cents per $100 assessed, valuation of all taxable property within the corporate limits of the city to provide revenues for current expenses and interest in sinking fund requirements, providing due and delinquent dates, providing for the incorporation of premises. This tax rate will raise more total property taxes than last year's budget by $655,497 or 13.51%. And of that amount, $456,415 is tax revenue to be raised from new property taxes added to the tax roll this year.
I have also a very brief presentation on the tax rate. So during our last council meeting, I had the opportunity to also give a very brief presentation on the tax rate. Like the mayor mentioned, staff recommendation is to keep the tax rate, property tax rate the same for fiscal year 2027. So our finance department and myself, we have worked diligently with our tax assessor office, and we were able to get our 3 different number results. So this is essentially how high we could go with our tax rate. Staff is not recommending to increase the tax rate for fiscal year 2027. So we're very well below the voter approval rate. So, and again, the same language that the mayor already read, that we have to legally disclose about the additional revenue that this tax rate will be increasing. And just to kind of give the council a friendly reminder, kind of where we stand with our neighboring cities in the county. As you can see, Crandall is right here in the middle with the other big players in the area, just right behind Kaufman and right above City of Mesquite. And also, as a friendly refresher for the council, our tax rate is composed of two different components. It has maintenance and operation and interest in sinking. What Mr. Andre presented to the council with the debt that we're issuing, where he said that city is able to cover the debt with out of the 0.75 cents, with the 11.5 cents, we're able to cover the existing debt plus the additional debt that we're going to be taking out to fund some special projects. That is one component. The interest in sinking, out of the 75 cents that the city collects per 100 valuation on a property, that goes into its own bucket. It basically goes into a bucket, and that is a restricted fund that we can only use to be able to pay for debt service. We can only use it to make debt payments. Now, the remaining 0.635, that goes into maintenance and operation, and that is the funding that we use to essentially run the day-to-day operation of the city, pay for salaries, utilities, fuel for vehicles, all of the day-to-day operations. So that is the breakdown. I just wanted to give council a friendly reminder of how that this is how the tax rate is composed. And also a breakdown of the average homeowner. Now, again, this average value, I was able to get it just from the Central Appraisal District, and I was able to get the average value per parcel. Now, remember that some parcels do not have a structure or a house on them, so some parcels are empty. This is why your average value per parcel is about $208,000, because some of them are vacant. But that puts the average tax bill for a citizen that owns property in Crandall to about $1,564. When the council or any other citizen of the city, when you receive your tax bill at the end of the year that is due January or February of next year, this is the breakdown. So out of your, let's assume $10,000 for easy math, $4,800 or 48% of that will go to Crandall ISD based on their tax rate. $3,000 or 30% goes to the city of Crandall. $1,400 would go to the county, and then there's Trinity Valley and Road and Bridge. So this is the breakdown of the tax bill. So if somebody receives a $7,000 tax bill, not all of it comes to the city. Only 30% of that comes to the city to help fund our day-to-day operations and our debt as well. And that is my presentation. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions if there are any.
For Judy. So on our little handout here is it says item 16, but does this need to be for this item? Okay, I just want to confirm that. Any questions regarding the tax rate? I know we've had some discussion on this. If not, I would just need a motion, and it would need to be read as on
Got
the
you covered.
handout. Thank you.
I make a motion to approve a tax rate of 75 cents that does not exceed the no new revenue rate, and to approve the 0.115 or 11.5 cents tax on each $100 assessed value of all taxable property for interest and sinking fund requirements of the city, and tax rate of 63.5 cents on each $100 assessed value of all taxable property for the maintenance and operations of the city of Crandall, Texas.
Okay, I've got a motion by Councilman Baker.
Second.
Second from Councilman Martinez. And again, we'll do a record vote. I'll start again to my right. Councilman Allen,
Yes.
Councilman Baker,
Yes.
Councilmember McKinney,
Yes.
and Councilmember Martinez.
Yes.
Very good. All right, we'll move on to item number 18, executive session. The council will hold executives. Sorry.
So let me just explain this because it's very confusing to everyone. But this item is actually it's a separate ratification vote of your budget. It is not a record vote, just a normal vote, but the local government code as of a few years ago, when they did all these new changes on your budget and your tax rate adoption, the legislature wants you to do a separate ratification vote of your budget by virtue of the fact that you're going to raise more money next year, not because you're raising your taxes, but because you have more property. It's just an additional, legal obligation.
All right, then we'll look at item 15. Discussion and possible action on resolution number 0817-2026C, ratifying the property tax increase reflected in the fiscal year 2026-2027 annual budget. This tax rate will raise more total property taxes than last year's budget by $655,497 or 13.51%. And of that amount, $456,415 is tax revenue to be raised from new property added to the tax roll this year. And then there's a C taxpayer impact statement below, and that's at the end of your packet. I know we've already walked through this. Any questions on this resolution? If there are none, I would just need a motion.
Approve resolution number 08172026C.
Okay, I've got a motion by Craig
I'll second.
and a second by Caleb. All those in favor? Okay. Now we will move on to item 18. Executive session. Council will hold executive session pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code in accordance with the authority contained therein. Executive session, Texas Government Code, Section 551.087, deliberation regarding economic development, tax increment reinvestment, Zone 6, and Project Grand Slam. If I could get a motion to go into executive.
Motion to go into executive session.
Okay, I've got a motion from Craig and a second from Caleb. All those in favor? All right, and that is at 7:30.
saw some in there. I keep selling them. You?
There's a bunch back there. If you want
I
some.
would love some.
You got your
Yes.
language. Okay. I said they dropped a bunch off. All right, we'll move on to item 19, open session. The council will now adjourn executive session and reconvene into open session pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code and take action, if any, on items discussed during closed executive session. If I can get a motion to adjourn from executive back into open.
Motion to adjourn.
I've got a motion from Craig and a second from Caleb. All those in favor? Okay, and that is at 8:17. And then is there any action coming out of executive session?
I make a motion to authorize city manager to negotiate an amended developer agreement for Eagle Crest.
Okay, I've got a motion from Craig
Second.
and a second from Caleb. All those in favor? Okay, we'll move on to item 20. If I can get a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I've got a motion from Councilman Baker. I got a second from Stacy McKinney.
We got a woohoo from Stacy.
I'm gonna say woohoo means I second that. All right, all those in favor? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Yeah, well done.
I want